In 2005, Bill Gates returned to Lakeside School to speak to the graduating class. He said something that surprised everyone. One reason I'm so grateful to Lakeside is that I can directly trace the founding of Microsoft back to my earliest days here. Then he said something harder. I never imagined that anyone would ever cheer for me on a Lakeside athletic field. I almost didn't make it here, because I nearly didn't make it to Lakeside at all. What he was really saying, everything that happened depended on one decision, one moment, one lucky break. And most of it wasn't even his choice. Let's be honest about Bill Gates' birth lottery. His father, William Henry Gates Sr., was a lawyer at Preston Gates & Ellis, one of Seattle's most prominent firms. His mother, Mary Maxwell Gates, was on boards everywhere: the University of Washington, the YWCA, United Way. When Bill was born in 1955, he wasn't born into poverty. He was born into the top 1% of Seattle society. And when he turned 13, something happened that revealed how massive his privilege actually was. His parents enrolled him at Lakeside School, a private institution, expensive, elite, the kind of place where your parents' wealth opens doors before you even arrive. Here's the thing you need to understand about the Bill Gates story. It's not a story about a poor kid who coded his way to success. It's a story about a privileged kid who recognized an opportunity that appeared in front of him, and then made choices that turned that opportunity into an empire. The privilege got him to the door, but something else made him walk through it. And that something else is worth understanding. Spring 1968, Lakeside School, Seattle. Bill Gates is in 7th grade, 13 years old. A teacher named Bill Dougal had a radical idea. Dougal was a World War II Navy pilot turned high school math and science teacher. According to Paul Allen, Gates' classmate, Dougal believed that book study wasn't enough without real-world experience. He also realized that we'd need to know something about computers when we got to college. In 1968, that thinking was visionary. Computers were machines you went to, not things you owned, not things kids used. But Dougal petitioned the Lakeside Mothers Club, a parent fundraising organization, to do something unprecedented. Use the proceeds from their annual rummage sale, about $3,000, to lease a computer terminal for the school. The Mothers Club said yes. They bought a Teletype Model 33 ASR terminal. It looked like a large electric typewriter. It was connected to a General Electric mainframe computer downtown via phone line. When the terminal arrived at Lakeside, the school made a choice. Instead of tightly controlling who got access, instead of teaching computer basics in a classroom, they did something dangerous. They opened it up, and they unleashed the students. When Bill Gates saw that terminal for the first time, something shifted. At age 13, Bill Gates wrote his first computer program. Not in a class, not for homework, on his own, on the Teletype terminal at Lakeside. The program, Tic-Tac-Toe, a simple game where you play against the computer. Gates was fascinated by one thing. The computer would always execute the code perfectly, every single time. If you made a mistake in your instructions, the mistake happened perfectly too. Other kids found this boring or frustrating. Gates found it beautiful because it meant the computer was predictable, controllable. If you understood the rules, you could control it completely. That realization that complete control was possible changed everything. He started staying after school, writing more programs, teaching himself BASIC, Fortran, assembly language. Teachers noticed. Fred Wright, his math teacher, was one of them. According to Gates' own recollection in 2005, Fred Wright really inspired me to learn math and was a great mentor in the computer room. But here's what's important. Gates wasn't just using the computer, he was obsessing over it. While other kids were at sports, while other kids were at parties, Gates was in the computer room. But here's where the privilege had a limit. Computer time wasn't free, it was expensive. Gates' parents paid for Lakeside, but they told him, you want computer time? You have to pay for it yourself. So at 14, Bill Gates got a job. There was a company in Seattle called Computer Center Corporation, C-Cubed. They owned a PDP-10, a powerful mini computer used by universities and research labs. Gates and his friends made a deal with C-Cubed. Let us use your computer for free, and we'll find bugs in your software. C-Cubed agreed. Because teenage hackers looking for security flaws, that was actually useful to them. Gates and his friends, Paul Allen, Rick Weiland, and his best friend Kent Evans, formed the Lakeside Programmers Club in 1968, and they got access to $1 million computer. But they had to work at weird hours, nights, weekends, when C-Cube's staff wasn't using the machine. According to historical records, sometimes he and his buddies stayed up until midnight. If he missed the bus home, he had to walk 3 miles. 3 miles home, in the dark, in Seattle. Not because he was poor, because he chose to stay 1 more hour at the computer. One night, Gates did something he shouldn't have. He discovered that C-Cube's computer was connected to a national network called Cybernet. He realized he could do something dangerous. He could write a program that would copy itself across the network, a self-replicating program. He did it. The program spread across Cybernet and crashed the entire network. This was probably the first computer virus in history. When C-Cube discovered what happened, they were furious. Gates was severely reprimanded. And for an entire year, his junior year at Lakeside, he was banned from using the computer. Complete ban. For a 16-year-old whose entire world had become that machine, it was devastating. But something else happened that same year that was worse. His best friend, Kent Evans, was killed in a mountain climbing accident. Gates was a junior. Evans had been his closest friend since 8th grade. According to Gates, it shaped him profoundly. "It was the only negative thing in my childhood," he said later. "It shapes you that someone can just disappear." Evans was brilliant, better at math than Gates, by some accounts. They'd been planning their future together. Kent always had the big briefcase, like a lawyer's briefcase, Gates recalled years later. "We were always scheming about what we'd be doing 5 or 6 years in the future." Evans was dead, and Gates was sitting out a computer ban. When he came back online, when he was allowed to use computers again, he threw himself into it harder than before, almost like he was doing it for both of them. By senior year, something was locked in, not just for Gates, for the entire trajectory of computer science. Gates and Paul Allen had already started a company called Trafodata. In 1972, they wrote a program to measure traffic flow for the Washington State Department of Transportation. They made money from it. Real money. $20,000 at 16 years old. When Gates graduated from Lakeside in 1973, he scored 1,590 out of 1,600 on the SAT. He was accepted to Harvard. But something had already shifted inside him. He was no longer the privileged kid exploring computers as a hobby. But what did he understand that other kids didn't? What was he seeing in that machine that made him willing to walk 3 miles home in the dark? He understood that computers weren't a phase, and the people who understood them, really understood them, would be the ones who control the future. The privilege opened the door, but what Gates did with that door was his choice. He chose obsession over comfort. He chose the computer room over sleep. He chose the puzzle over parties. And that choice, that pattern of choosing what fascinates him over everything else, would define the next 40 years. But it would also blind him, because the same obsession that let him master the computer in 1968, the conviction that he understood the future before anyone else, would make him certain Microsoft owned what came next. And when mobile phones changed everything, that same certainty would cost him hundreds of billions of dollars. But that story comes later. For now, just understand, the door closed in 1973. Not because of privilege, because of choice. And what Bill Gates chose to do with his privilege would echo for decades.